And welcome, everyone. My name is Glenda Burrell, and I'd like to welcome you to the Zoom room. I'm so excited that you're here. If you're new to Zoom, I'd like to point out the chat feature in the bottom of your screen on the toolbar. Feel free to use that at any time during this evening, okay? I decided to host this event to encourage those who may have or have a loved one who lives with diabetes. Notice I didn't say suffer with, because this event is just not for those who suffer. It's all of those who have and live with diabetes. All right, we are going to provide hope here tonight, and I'm just wanting you to grasp hold of all the hope that is being shared with you. I'm so excited to have Dr. Corson, sharing with us tonight. Y'all are in for a treat. Dr. Corson received both her undergrad and her medical degree from Yale University. She completed her residency in family medicine in 1979. Both she and her husband, George, served as non-commissioned officers in the United States Public Health Services in North Carolina. Dr. Corson went into integrative medicine after studying nutritional therapy to help her patients recover better from chronic illness. She's also the medical, I love this part, she's also the medical editor in Medicinal Plants of North America. That's the first edition. Dr. Corson is a national health educator on nutrition and health recovery, as well as environmental illness. She is a presidential marketing director plus in the Juice Plus company. Now, I ain't gonna lie, if we were in person, I would tell y'all, put your hands together for Dr. Corson. But since we're on Zoom, I say, buckle up, listen up. This is gonna be good. Dr. Corson?
Glenda, thank you. That was a beautiful introduction. I'm so inspired by you. And it's just a pleasure to be with everyone. So we've got a limited time. I'm gonna try to cover as much as possible. And we work with nutrition. We're a mission-driven business. It's all about helping people to inspire healthy living and healthy giving around the world. So we actually are not disease specific. I just want to say that we are at a deeper level of nutrition, which the body recognizes and needs and was meant to be built by and protected by plant nutrition, extra plant nutrition, which we need in today's world very much. And we are made to use those plants so that everything in the body is working better in the way that it was designed to do. So I just want to preface that by saying we're not talking about using food as we would think of using drugs. There's a time and place for drugs, pharmaceuticals, but we're really talking about nutrition, the foundation of our health, and nutraceuticals, which sometimes would be a concentrated form of nutrition, still nutrition, still food. Safe, the body recognizes it and knows just what to do with it. So just wanted to preface it that way. So we have a lot of problems in the world today and in our country with diabetes. And there are actually, we can call them three kinds of diabetes. There's a third kind I'll mention briefly because some people have been using that, a relatively new term. Type 1 diabetes, and by the way, all of these are impacted positively and critically importantly by adding more plants. All of these forms of diabetes, all forms of diabetes. So type 1, which is relatively much rarer than type 2, the bulk of diabetes that we see in the United States is type 2. But type 1 is an autoimmune problem that has happened, usually relatively young in life, and more common than it used to be, as are all autoimmune problems today. And it is an absence of insulin. Insulin is one of the master hormones in the body, tremendously important. We cannot live without it. And if the body cannot make insulin from specialized cells in our pancreas, then we have no insulin, and then that's type 1 diabetes. The origin of that is autoimmune. It was some inflammatory damage in those pancreas islet cells and the inability to produce insulin. And we used to call that juvenile diabetes, and you could still call it that, but the medical term is type 1 diabetes. Does plant nutrition help? Tremendously, and we'll go into that a little bit more. Type 2 diabetes is about 90-95% of all the diabetes in the United States. And that is a disease of insulin resistance. So we have insulin, and the body in its wisdom is making more and more and more higher amounts of insulin to try to make up for the fact that the insulin it makes is not working properly at the receptor. It's insulin receptor resistance at the cell membrane of every cell. And the good news is there's a tremendous amount of reversibility of that. Insulin resistance happens because of inflammation. If you have inflammation of the cell membrane, you can get then insulin resistance. And bringing down inflammation systemically through the whole body, which adding a lot more plants does, is very beneficial. Reducing systemic inflammation can reduce insulin resistance. And in fact, there's a lot of research on that. And then type 3, we'll just touch on it briefly. Type 3 diabetes is Alzheimer's. Isn't that amazing? So some people call Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes, meaning there's inflammation of the brain, if that makes sense. So what I love about knowing this is that if we can normalize our inflammatory burden, bring that inflammatory burden down, everything gets better. The brain works better. Whether we have Alzheimer's or not, the brain works better. So we want less insults to the brain by having less inflammation. And the same with type 2 diabetes, we want less inflammation bothering the insulin receptor. And that's going to give us less resistance to insulin and a healthier body. One thing it's important to know about insulin is a growth factor. So when insulin is too high, when it's elevated because our body's trying so hard to produce more because it's not able to work properly at the receptor level, as we make more and more insulin, our body's trying to help us, insulin then becomes an unwanted growth factor. And when you have unwanted growth factor, you have things growing that should not be growing. Extra blood vessels, extra cells, potentiates the growth of tumors, contributes tremendously to hardening of the arteries, inflammation and damage to the blood vessels. So we don't want to be running our insulin high. And a lot of Americans, millions of Americans, are running their insulin high every day, all day long. They don't know it, but that's because they have insulin resistance. And that part of the whole thing is reversible. The biggest thing people can do to reverse that or prevent that is adding more plants to their daily intake of their food. The more plants, and by plants, let's define that very precisely, we're talking about vegetables, we're talking about fruits, and we're talking about berries, those dark, usually red, purple, blue fruits that are the berries. So those three categories, fruits, vegetables, and berries, we need more of those in a wider rainbow, a wider spectrum or variety than our ancestors did, because we have way more toxins than any other generation has ever had. And we have a weak food stream. Our food stream is weak in protection. Protection is the plants. So fresh, raw, preferably clean, free of pesticides and unwanted germs like E. coli and things like that, free of heavy metals, free of radiation, pure produce as close to the time of harvest as possible and as mature as possible. That is the recipe for better human health. There are thousands upon thousands of studies across the United States and the world showing the higher people go in terms of daily intake over a long period of many different kinds of plant foods, the higher their level of health, the lower their risk of heart disease, diabetes, stroke, Alzheimer's, cancer, you name it, the things we don't want, those things decrease in a population as they eat more variety on a regular basis of fresh plant foods. You know, most foods that we get at the grocery store, we need to shop the grocery aisle. We need those foods, but most of them are 2 weeks or 3 weeks off of the plant by the time we get them into our bodies. They really are. And it takes a long time for those things to be harvested. They're always harvested too early so that they can withstand the time and the shipping. That cuts out a huge amount of the plant protection for us. We call them phytonutrients, plant nutrients, or phytochemicals, the natural plant chemicals that our bodies made from plant chemistry. We're losing that when we harvest early. Then it's trucked a long way. You've got the time factor. You lose a tremendous amount of the enzymes that are there in plants to help us utilize that food. And then most of us are going to be doing some kind of cooking. Not that cooking is necessarily bad, but we're going to be doing some kind of microwaving, preserving, freezing, all of those kind of things. So we're losing a lot of the power of plant chemistry through the way our food system is today. And for that reason, about 19 years ago now, almost 20, Juice Plus was something that I needed to pay attention to help my children recover their health after their school added vending machines to their life 5 days a week. I'm glad that happened because I was deeply humbled by what happened with my kids and all their classmates and their schoolmates. What little plants the children had been eating, they went to 0 plants within the first week of having access to the vending machines because their tastes changed. They were getting soda pop and Twix and Cheetos and you name it, Reese cups, and that changes the germs in our gut according to what we feed our gut. The microbiome or the germs tell us in large measure, they produce a chemistry that tells us what to eat, and taste change. Pediatricians call this metabolic programming changes. We all know this to be true, and we can change our taste for the better with knowledge and conscious effort, but we can also change our taste for the worse, usually under stress. And these kinds of changes where fast food, which doesn't perish, non-perishable food, generally bad food, will feed bad organisms in our gut. It's really very true. So my children stopped eating plant foods completely within the first week. And within 4 months, my child at 15, who had been healthy, developed exercise-induced asthma. Never had a trace of that prior to then. That humbled me, and that's when I took a look at Juice Plus and the fact that it is a beautiful nonprofit foundation that allows these children to have free Juice Plus. So a parent, usually mom or dad or grandparent, if they decide they're going to use Juice Plus, they may add their child through their Juice Plus partner through our nonprofit foundation. That child can be free for 4 years. If the family's loving it, they get 4 years for that child. And I love that. That's what we did. And the rest is history. We fell in love with the whole concept, the research. This is the most thoroughly, independently researched nutritional whole food product in history. When I came on board, I loved the 3 studies that were done already in the mid-90s. And I loved that. I took a look at this in 2001. And I loved the good research done by universities, not done by the company, published in top medical journals that decided this was worthy of publication. You cannot buy your way into that kind of situation. Now, there are 41 university papers published in respected journals across the United States and other top medical institutions around the world. So what we know to be true is we're adding a wide rainbow, 30 species if you're using the vegetable blend, the fruit blend, and the berry blend. That trio gives 30 species of concentrated food plants, very high quality, nutritionally intense, without a sugar load, quite remarkable, and without a salt load. And that's a dried powder concentrate, encapsulated for those who find it easy to swallow, the vast majority of people. Easy to open for those who cannot swallow capsules, or for babies. We start the babies in our family on opening the capsules and sprinkling that pure produce into their baby food at about 6 months old when they're starting baby food. And then there's a chewable form mainly for children, but some grown-ups like that as well. There's 1 gram of organic sweetener per chewable. It's necessary for taste because you're talking about raw kale, parsley, broccoli, beets. And so the small amount of natural sugar is important for taste so that people don't spit it out. However, I prefer, nutritionally speaking, for people to have access to opening the capsules and use the powder. Could be put in applesauce or a smoothie or water, which is what I do. But the thing is that with diabetes, we're not treating this as a medicine, we're treating it as food. And in the sense, Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, said, "Let food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food." In that sense, the body recognizes the healing power of these plant nutrients. They help our body directly by getting into the bloodstream, those parts of it that are supposed to go in the bloodstream. They bring down oxidation, which is damage of the blood vessels and every other cell in the body. But they also, and this is key, they feed our good germs in our gut. What we feed ourselves, we're feeding our germs. And that's a concept that little kids often will get just like that. They'll hear a story about it. Dr. Bill Sears comes to mind with his wonderful books that he and his wife Martha have written, some over 40 books on care of children. And many of their more later books focus very much on nutrition. So when kids get a chance to hear Dr. Sears' book once, they get the picture, and they love the idea that when they feed themselves and what they choose for themselves, they're feeding their good germs if they're feeding plants. So it's about adding more plants. Whether we eat meat or not, the more plants we eat, the better off we're going to be. So there's a huge role for plants in decreasing inflammation, decreasing insulin resistance. That's proven specifically with Juice Plus in the Nemours Children's Research Foundation study out of Jacksonville, Florida, that these little children aged 6 to 10 had insulin resistance when they used Juice Plus versus placebo. The Juice Plus kids over 6 months decreased belly fat and insulin resistance. That's powerful, and that was published in the Journal of Pediatrics. So you can't help but have good things happen when you add a lot more plants, and especially when you're doing it without the sugar component. So let me stop there, Glenda. I know we've got some beautiful people to share their stories, and I hope that was helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Again, if we were in person, I'd say y'all give it up for Dr. Candice Corson, the wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you so much for taking the time out to share with us tonight.
It's my pleasure. Glenda, may I just say one thing real quick? I meant to say I love to give to people resources, and one of my favorite resources is the freedomrevolution.com website and the section Healthy Living Revolution, and you can ask your Juice Plus partner to send you the exact link. There's a link that has about 40 different doctors that have left education videos. They're not sales pieces, they're deep education. And that includes diabetes, brain health, depression, anxiety, bariatric health, eye health. It's a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. So that's the Freedom Revolution and the section in there on resources. So thank you, Glenda. It's been a pleasure to be with you.
And thank you so much. All right, you guys. So you've heard from the expert, but now let's hear from those who are closely walking through this. Okay, Laura, I would like to introduce my girlfriend, Laura Allen. She's going to share a little bit about her household's journey with diabetes and Juice Plus.
Hey guys. Okay, so our story is type 1 diabetes. Our health journey was sponsored by our oldest about 8 years ago. I was 8 weeks pregnant and terrified for the future. I was still silently struggling with an eating disorder that had consumed my life for years. My husband was also the reason we said yes to making one simple change. He's a type 1 diabetic. He has been since age 13. His mom is also type 1 diabetic, and his health was just going the wrong way. Chronic seasonal allergies, couldn't kick a cold, high cholesterol, overweight, on a statin, increasing A1C, increasing insulin, needing caffeine and sugar to get through the day. He didn't like veggies, so he ate zero, and he stayed away from fruits because they were sugar. So I was really just scared for his health long term. And we both didn't feel good. We went to bed tired. We woke up tired. I was cooking 2 different meals. I just felt stuck. And so we said yes to making one simple change: fruits and veggies and berries in a capsule. And my husband loved it because he could get the nutrition from fruits, veggies, and berries with minimal carbs, and he didn't have to chew those veggies. And we said yes, not expecting really anything to happen other than just peace of mind that we were bridging that nutritional gap that we both had. Y'all, in a short period of time, our health went from desperate to thriving, and we have not looked back. That one simple change was the catalyst to other lifestyle changes. And today, my husband's allergies are improved. He eats a plant-based diet 85% of the time, not because I'm making him, but because that's actually what he's craving. Metabolic reprogramming. You are what you eat, so you crave what you eat. His cholesterol is now normal. His A1C has dropped from 7.6 to 6.6. He's lost about 25 pounds. And y'all, just the best part is we feel good. We feel better than we did in our 20s. And that little girl who sponsored our health journey, the reason we said yes to fruits and veggies in a capsule, at 18 months old, she was diagnosed with the antibodies for type 1 diabetes. Y'all, 18 months old. That took our breath away. And they said she would need insulin within a year and that there was nothing that we can do. But your DNA is not your destiny. And the foods that we eat, specifically the plant nutrition, turns on and off those good and bad genes. Y'all, today, her A1C is normal, down from 5.7 to 3.9. Y'all, she's 7.5 years old and thriving and has not needed any insulin. And I think the most exciting part is that she has the strongest immune system out of us all. So we have hope. We have hope for our future, hope for our family's health, and nutrition is cumulative and it absolutely matters. And we are so grateful that we made that one simple change, which was the catalyst for other lifestyle changes. So that is our story. And I am going to throw it over to Jim. Jim, would you share your story with us, please?
I'll be happy to share my story. 4 months after being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I was sitting in my doctor's office waiting to hear the results of my most recent blood work. She walks in, pulls up a chair, and asks me a question I never expected to hear. "What are you doing?" she said. "We got your A1C results in. You told me 4 months ago you didn't want to be on medication. Did you stop taking it?" I said, "Well, yes, after a few weeks I did." She said, "So how do you explain this? 4 months ago, your A1C was 10.4 and now it's 6.6. Plus you've lost 27 pounds and all your other numbers have greatly improved. This is amazing," she says. "No one does this. What are you doing?" I like to think that I'm really just like you. I want to find the secrets that leads to experience the best life possible. Most of my life, I had that figured out. Life was good. But 5 years ago, I felt like I was sitting on the side of the road and life was passing me by. I made a change. A whole new chapter of life started for me. I felt 10 years younger. I did it through flooding my body with concentrated fruits and vegetables. It put my body back into balance and improved my immune function. What I did not realize then was that I had discovered a secret that would prepare my body to be a warrior in my battle against diabetes. However, I still had a love affair with my sweets. You say apple, I said pie. You say banana, I said pudding. When I was first diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, I was surprised, but not shocked. Too many sweets and too much stress. My first few days, I started reading labels to count my carbs. I took the medication and struggled with the side effects. I changed to a new medication and struggled with the side effects. Initially, my sugar was under control, but I did not feel better. Then I discovered the one secret that was not written in any of the diabetes materials or cookbooks. The one secret my doctor anxiously waited to hear about. Well, I'm just like you. When I find out a secret, I want to tell everybody. What was the secret? I continue to flood my body with powdered fruits and vegetables. 20 different types of fruits that had 6 carbs and 15 calories. All of the nutrients without the sugar. It was also part of my healing diet, and I lost 27 pounds. When I discovered that secret, I knew I had a fighting chance to rewrite my diabetes story. I took my exercise to a whole new level. I started eliminating processed foods. I began to focus on the ingredients on a food label instead of just the carbs. I focused on reducing stress. I'm just like you, I'm a diabetic. Just like you, I'm a fighter and I'm an overcomer. And just like you, when I find a happier and a healthier life, I won't let it go. It's been 2.5 years since then. I still am not on diabetes medication. Plus, my doctor has taken me off of cholesterol and blood pressure medicine. Today, my A1C is 5.5, and I feel amazing. I've added yet another new chapter in my life with a renewed hope and excitement.
Thank you so much, Jim. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels like saying amen every time I hear a story, but here's mine. When I was 16 years old, I thought my life was over. I had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and y'all, I love food so much. I felt like everything was just gone. So I looked at my dad, who was diabetic, looked at the food he was eating, and I was not excited. I felt restricted. I hated seeing my friends eat whatever, and I'm just hanging out looking from the sidelines. It was just not a happy time for me. So when I began to go down this journey, it wasn't a pretty one, even in my mind. I immediately started to imagine, what is going to happen to me? What is my future going to look like? I was so immature, as you can imagine, and I didn't take my health seriously. I took my medicine, but just sometimes. I watched what I ate and did a little exercise, and that helped me to keep my blood sugar in check. But when I took away some exercise that I loved, that was skating, I watched my blood sugars skyrocket. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't really care because I didn't know how important that was. My health insurance at the time didn't cover what I needed, and I just figured, you know what, this isn't in my budget, so I'm not going to take insulin. I made a lot of decisions that were not smart because of my immaturity. Life was tough, but I didn't know how tough it began to be. I didn't know that things were going on the inside of my body that I couldn't keep up with. And so then one morning I woke up, and it was as if someone drew a Sharpie across my vision. I couldn't see clearly, and my eyesight was messed up. That was a huge wake-up call for me. Up and down, surgery, treatments, my vision was just not reliable. All of this was going on while my mom was dying. I had to depend on rides to go visit her, to run errands, to do whatever it is I needed to do. And I just felt so defeated. So a friend shared one simple change with me, and I dismissed it. She said, oh, have you heard of Juice Plus? And I said, I've got some at home. And I wasn't lying, like I had some at home, I just wasn't taking it, you know. Then she caught up with me a few weeks later. So how do you like that Juice Plus? Let me tell you something. I knew I couldn't lie. I said, I haven't been taking it. And she went mama on me and said, if you don't take it, it can't make a difference. You need to put it in your mouth and down your throat. I said, yes, ma'am. And I took it that night when I got home, and I have loved this powdered produce ever since. So, whereas before, I had to take 15 units of insulin with every meal, sliding scale, I began to experience some things that I didn't have to take that. It went from 15 units to 10, to 8, to 6, depending on what I eat. And if I enjoy one of our low glycemic complete shakes, y'all, I only take 4 units of insulin from 15. So basically what I want you to know is that where others don't tell you that there is hope, you have basic testimonies right here, living, breathing hope. Before, I was scared of my future because I thought my future included blindness, loss of my fingers and toes. But now it's a different story. My future looks bright. I have hope because I am more than a conqueror. So if Juice Plus makes sense to you, you got options. The first option is to become a customer. You know, get with the person who invited you tonight. They cared enough to invite you. Get with them, become a customer, and invest in your own wellness. We've got another option. Sponsor a child through our Healthy Starts for Families. Then you can invest in our future. But the third option, join our mission, be your own customer. We would love to have you because I can't tell everybody that you know. Only you can tell people that you know. We don't know the same people. We've got people here from Hawaii, Canada, and everywhere else. Join our mission. That way, we can invest in our community together. I am so excited that you guys joined us tonight. I hope you did receive some hope, and I hope your brain is turning to see how exactly you can use the information you got tonight to serve better in your future. All right? So sending love to this whole team, this whole world, and bidding you good night. Let's go, let's get it, let's do it.